I know what Gravity Falls is. You know what Gravity Falls is. Everyone does. If you don't, it's a show. You can watch it on Disney+. It was created by Alex Hirsch, and I would recommend it to 10 out of 10 people. It's an amazing watch, and it's the only thing I've ever seen that appeals to everyone and can actually succeed in doing it. Go watch it for yourself. It's not super long, has a great mystery, character writing, just the best jokes on TV. I began thinking that Gravity Falls had some issues and that maybe it wasn't as perfect as when I saw it as a kid, and it definitely does have issues, but it really does just have that special ability, that certain X factor that enthralls an audience and makes them feel a lot. My last video on Darksiders 1 wasn't perfect. I don't even think it's good. It's been a few months since that came out, and I really just can't stand that video. During the script, I kept changing my vantage point, my coverage angle. Sometimes I acted like I knew the whole damn story and that I knew everything that was happening. This made for some things that sounded like criticism when it was just me pretending it was my first time, and other times it felt like I was skipping parts of the game when I knew more than I should have. It's really hard to put into words, but it really made the video worse at points. So in this video, and the next, which will be Darksiders 2, I'll be trying out either ways of writing the script. Either I cover it chronologically, or I just know everything from the start, and just try to figure out what I'm best at and which works better for a video. In this video, we'll be talking about everything chronologically, the order in which they happened in the show, and I will be acting as if I have no idea what the answers to the mysteries are, ever. Today we'll be looking at and reviewing every episode in order, and once we have enough information about the topic, we'll discuss one of the big aspects that make the show what it is, like a character or the mystery. Obviously that's going to be the last one, but whatever. I think that makes a lot of sense. Recaps and surface level criticism while establishing references for later on, and then big explosions of analysis. But first we should establish base level the good qualities of the show. And as I was rewatching it and trying to find out what the quintessential Gravity Falls episode was to look at for this, I got to the credits of the first episode and I just had to say, wow, they nailed it! Other shows take seasons for their characters to feel fleshed out and for the story to begin, but Gravity Falls just gets it right. The theme song is amazing. I love getting to see parts of the town and the things that can be weird, mysterious, and funny all at the same time. The ending where we get to see a bunch of bad guys monsters, the main cast with all the backwards whispering, and then it's quick flash of something a little bit more sinister, it really gets you in the mood to solve that mystery. The introduction also really quickly sets up enough story and characters that you could start watching at most points in the show. We will see Gravity Falls absolutely class every other show trying to find the balance between serialization and episodic storytelling. And obviously the writing in each episode is a big part of that, but that introduction really does help. You can watch that and get the basic premise basically instantly. The first episode features our wonderful protagonists, twins Dipper and Mabel Pines, along with their great uncle Stan, the Mystery Shack, and its faithful handyman Zeus. And Wendy. The mysterious town of Gravity Falls intrigues the twins in ways that show off their personality so well. There's a goat in their room. Dipper notices it as weird and asks why. Why is there a goat in his room? Mabel does not even blink before totally accepting it as her new best friend and allowing it to eat her sweater. Dipper enjoys understanding and making weird things normal to him. If he can push himself to interact with it instead of spending his life trying to understand it beforehand, he'd be a great scientist. Mabel enjoys enjoying things. She doesn't have to understand what she loves to love it, always quick to keep things happy. They both explore the strange surroundings, Mabel looking for a fun summer romance, including kissing practice with a leaf blower, and Dipper being too scared to explore, again trying to understand things and wasting his chance to enjoy them. Stan forces Dipper out into the wild to put up advertisements for the Mystery Shack, where Dipper finds a metal tree that opens for him to find a journal. Thick and bound with red leather, a gold six-fingered hand and the letter 3 covers the front of it. Inside is everything he feared. A book detailing every possible way the weirdness of the town can be dangerous. Monsters, ghosts, curses, and magical artifacts all secretly hidden around the town. Back at the shack, Mabel brings home her new boyfriend, a boy named Normal Man, or Norman. In his journal, he researches Norman and finds a lot of similarities between him and the Walking Dead. Mabel wants him to be weird, that'd make her happy. A vampire weird, not zombie weird, but still. There's a funny little joke here where Dipper shows off the gnome page on accident. That always makes me laugh. We get a few more jokes and pieces of characterization, Stan being seemingly ignorant, scheming, but still extremely charming, and Zeus acting as the oddly fitting voice of reason and reliable ear for listening. Both are genuinely funny. I love this show's sense of humor. It's weird in a way that only real people can be. It's a very impressive script. It feels lived in, if that makes sense for a script. Dipper reflects on what he's seen and what everyone's been telling him to cope with his anxiety. When his fears are confirmed, he sees Norman's hand fall off, and him really slyly putting it back onto his arm. He immediately sets out to save his sister, losing his fear when his family is in danger. Wendy's there, and she believes him, or more trusts him with the golf cart, which is like their work vehicle. But she obviously doesn't actually believe in zombies. She just thinks that, well, she can trust Dipper. Zeus is fully into the weirdness, as he totally believes him and gives him a shovel for the zombie and a bat for emergency pinatas, just in case. Norman reveals themselves to Mabel, and she's obviously super weirded out to find that he's not a zombie, nor a vampire, but a bunch of gnomes in an overcoat. Remember when that was foreshadowed in a little joke? She, being the little ray of sunshine that she is, seems to be okay with still being friends with the gnomes. But they're not so sunny, kidnapping her and forcing her to be their unwilling queen. I've always wondered what happened to the last queen of the gnomes and how old the gnomes are. Coming up to the conclusion now, Dipper follows the gnomes, taking Mabel into the forest, and he realizes that they're gnomes, not zombies. He saves his sister and they both fight off the gnomes as they drive back to the shack. And then really out of nowhere, using the same skills they did to be Norman, they become a kaiju-sized gnome. And they manage to escape it until they crash smack bang into one of my favorite jokes. So they use the, for whatever reason, well set up leaf blower to destroy the gnomes. This part where Mabel uses emotions to manipulate the gnomes and it goes over Dipper's head because his brain just isn't wired like that is such a good demonstration of their skills. And by the end, they've both saved each other, just in time for them to go inside as the shop's closing for them to get their iconic pine tree hat and grappling hook. It's a wonderful little story. Sorry if that got a little in-depth. I just needed to set up examples so I can compliment the show just as much as I can. I know that this is breaking my chronological rule that I set up 3 seconds ago and am expressly making this video to follow, but I thought it'd be better than me repeating myself every episode. You may notice how this has been a very nice 3-act structure with the time split up across all the characters. It's been well paced and has a good balance of seriousness and levity. You would notice that about every single episode, most episodes, not all the episodes, 95% of the episodes. The mystery that is contained in this episode is set up, lingered on, and then solved, but also the serialized mystery of the metal trees, an all-knowing journal, and its potential author, creepy art in the intro, and the general magic of the town is also well set up. The mix of serialized and episodic storytelling is masterful and perfect for hooking someone in with a single episode. The humor of the show is special. It's not adult humor or kids humor, it's just humor. It's actually just funny through its timing, subversions, and occasional glimpses into a realistic setting with such ridiculous things happening. This is not the type of kid or adult joke that is just grossness or double entendres. This isn't Loud House, where one character will be like, whoa, sex, and then another character walks in and farts. It's not that. Gravity Falls is just genuinely funny. Anyone could laugh at this show, from a 5-year-old, 25-year-old, 55-year-old person could all laugh at the same jokes. It is a huge part of the show's appeal. So we've covered the mystery and narrative side of the writing, the jokes, and I would say that the third main pillar of Gravity Falls' success is its character writing and their complex journeys. Even in just one episode, Dipper and Mabel lessen negative parts of the character to protect each other. Stan begins to show some kindness towards the twins, and Zeus is perfect, so he's okay, he's flawless. They definitely don't need to give him a heartbreaking character arc at some point. It's simple enough that kids can enjoy it, but it's simple in a way that real kids are, making it easier for older audience to relate to it or just genuinely get invested. We'll be talking about their character arcs much later though. There are some really impressive foreshadowing, parallels, and just good work that can only be appreciated nearer the end. Just a few little compliments. The art style is really appealing and gives all the characters their obvious shape language. The animation is smooth and works well. with the show taking place in a new town, there's lots of backgrounds and tertiary characters that need to appear. They all move and look good. The implementation of CGI, like the cart, looks genuinely amazing. I did not even realize that that was CGI until my newest rewatch. I'm certain that there are a few shots that I didn't notice with CGI, and that's the compliment. I had no idea that they were using CGI. This show looks super great. It's not immensely impressive, like I didn't have my jaw on the floor, but this is episode 1, and obviously it's not trying to be Redline or Spider-Verse. I'm super excited to learn more about the mysteries of Gravity Falls. The first episode got me hooked, just like it did when I was a kid and I first watched it. I'm so into this show. We begin meeting the members of the town in the legend of the Double Wonka. We begin meeting the members of the town in the legend of the Double Wonka, if that's how you say it. We meet Officer Durley and Officer Blubbs, Old Man McGucket, Wendy's family, and a whole bunch of other background filler guys. Even the town's local enthusiast Tyler. We also dive a little deeper into Stan as he desperately tries to spend time with his grandkids, but is also too proud to actually just ask, exactly like he did in the first episode. Stan's boat is called the Stanner War. That's a cute little name. We also see Zeus's naivety and clumsiness being pushed not as a joke, but now into real character flaws, as he interrupts the plot of the episode. So the actual plot consists of Stan taking the twins out on a fishing day that's interrupted by Old Man McGucket embarrassing his own son by warning the town of a massive lake monster called the Double Wonka. The twins obviously prefer a day of monster hunting with Zeus than a day of tying knots with dead fish with Stan, so they head out to find proof of it and claim all of the fame, money, and hamster balls that could come along with it. Stan desperately tries to make friends and acts as the half-comedy, half-tragedy of the episode. Soon the Double Wonka begins hunting them. Zeus and Mabel try to outboat it and fight it off, while Dipper tries to control his fear enough to consult the journal. He tells Mabel to drive the boat into a waterfall because there might be a cave behind it, and she trusts him enough to put all of their lives at risk. The Double Wonka gets stuck. As it turns out, Dipper was right, and Mabel's trust was well placed as they fly through, but the Double Wonka gets stuck in the waterfall. The twins get the monster proof they wanted, but in a twist, the Double Wonka turns out to be Old Man McGucket himself, operating a giant robot. He says it best himself. While it is a bit contrived, these are the lengths old men like him will go to spend time with their family. After a tender moment of reflection, they decide to use the last roll of film to make memories with Stan for the rest of the day. Was it pride or past experiences that stopped Stan from putting himself out there? It seems like he's used to this kind of thing, commenting on it like it's happened before. He says he's been kicked out of groups and isn't surprised when people around the town don't want to hang around him, probably due to his poorly masked desperation. Overall, a great episode with amazing jokes and effectively laid groundwork for the characters to keep growing off of. The first episode was definitely a first episode, but this is the first episode of real Gravity Falls. The episode opens on a murdered wax figure, and Stan jokingly accuses the other wax figures of being the murderers. This story is much simpler this time. Zeus finds Stan's old, unprofitable wax museum, and the twins push him to reopen it. But the thing that convinces him is that Mabel turns that murdered, melted wax figure into a new, shiny statue that could recapture business. It doesn't. The only reason anyone showed up was for the free pizza, and Stan is not one to give away things for free. But it wasn't a total loss, as Stan genuinely just falls in love with this statue of himself. But of course, the statue winds up murdered, and after the police of the town say that this crime is unsolvable, Dipper's pride takes up the challenge, only to be mocked by the police. They are a bit rude here, but the two officers are still such a delight. This is the start of a big part of Dipper, his self-doubt. There's a lot of it here. He is really proud of himself at the start, and those few comments by the police officers absolutely shatter him. Even the little things get him to bite, like Mabel saying that he's the sidekick, or the lumberjack guy calling him a girl. The main meat of the episode is Mabel and Dipper interrogating everyone who attended the Wax Stand show, eventually leading them to Toby Determined, who is forced to expose his nighttime activities to prove his innocence. Doesn't really have any relevance, just wanted to show a clip of it. And this mistake of blaming Toby allows even more mockery of Dipper. Being forced to admit failure, Dipper eventually swallows his pride and allows a wax funeral to go forth with no one being held accountable. Stan and Zeus get emotional. It's weird. Zeus acts a little bit like a kid parenting their father as he repeats Stan and supporting him. It's almost as if Zeus, a grown man, sees Stan as his father. Anyway, both of them run out, too overwhelmed with emotions. And in that moment, Mabel and Dipper are left alone with the deceased and a room full of wax statues. And in that moment, Dipper puts all of the pieces together. His perspective changes as he remembers what town he's in. It's an unsolvable case if you only took the world of the literal and the normal. The murderers are in the room with them right now. The wax statues themselves killed Wax Stan in an attempt to kill Fleshy Stan. In a plot of revenge for keeping them locked up in that room for all those years, Dipper comes face to face with Sherlock Holmes, who insults and belittles him. After a quick scuffle, Mabel discovers that they can kill the statues with hot, burny, melty things. They fight together for a moment before Dipper is forced outside by Sherlock. Sherlock thinks that he's putting Dipper into a corner. He insults him more and more, while also talking himself up, but he wastes too much time fighting over egos as the sun rises and kills him. But it's left on a strange note. Sherlock gets the last insult and the last laugh. Maybe it's meant to feel empty, as most battles over ego are. I think that Dipper knows that as long as he believes in himself, he can keep going. But even when he can't, he'll have Mabel to believe in him. These two are just the best protagonists to any show ever, surely. The introduction to one of, if not the best villains of the show, Gideon Gleeful. Animal abuser. The trope of kicking the dog or hurting the animal is a trope for a reason. It's really effective. This is firmly a Mabel episode. I love the way the first few episodes have been set up. A twin episode, a large cast episode, Dipper episode, and now we have the Mabel episode. It is really good pacing, and it keeps the least serialized part of the show interesting. A new Mystery Shack-esque scam is in town, Gideon Gleeful's Tent of Telepathy. Intrigued, the twins go to check it out, where Mabel and Gideon meet. He falls madly in love with her on first sight. He even follows her back to the shack to offer her a night out. And this turns from one night to two to them being in a relationship. He's a master manipulator, letting his displays of affection get bigger and more public. As Mabel gets closer to walking away, he tricks other people into forcing her to stay. It's a very dark concept for a Disney show, and especially for a little girl's first relationship. Mabel's biggest strength, her reliance on emotions, is turned into a weakness, and she's forced to ask Dipper to help her out, knowing that he's not going to be pressured out of fear. He pulls through for her, but Gideon does not take the breakup well, and finds a way to get under Dipper's skin. He bribes Toby Determined, the town's local reporter, into getting Dipper to go to an isolated warehouse in which he flexes his type of power that can scare Dipper. Weird power. Raw, physical, magic power. Gideon holds Dipper up in the air as a giant pair of shears get closer and closer. Thank goodness Mabel is tuned in enough to know that this wasn't right, and follows Dipper to the warehouse, where she can then exert pressure on Gideon, enough to distract him long enough for Dipper to steal the magic amulet. Even then, Gideon doesn't give up his feelings of superiority and control. He tackles Dipper and launches them both out of a window and hurtling off of a cliff. That is crazy. This episode's sense of rising action is so gripping and intense. I remember putting this on as a kid and wanting a silly comedy show like Early Adventure Time or something. Imagine my little baby face when by episode 4 the main characters have both nearly died twice per episode. Dude, I was like 8, I was shaken. Before they hit the ground and the child blood is spilled, Mabel uses Gideon's amulet to catch them both, lower them to safety, and then float herself down. She then destroys the amulet, stripping Gideon of his physical powers, meaning that as long as the twins stay together, they'll be perfectly safe from him. Gideon returns to his house in a rage before researching ways he can get to the Pines twins. Research? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Research in a journal. One bound in red leather, a gold 6-fingered hand on the cover, and a big number 2 on the front. I love the style of mystery writing. Obviously there's a big number 3 on Dipper's journal, but I never even thought about it. I thought it was, okay, well, it's another part of the weirdness. But now there's one with 2. It was just a background mystery that's just been brought into focus. This explosion of questions is probably the most well-remembered part by viewers. Where'd the second one come from? Why were they separated? Where's the first one? And really now, who wrote these things? I feel like Gideon and the second journal can overpower Mabel's story in this episode. She has her strength turned against her and made into the weakness. Dipper gets the same done to him, and then at the end she pushes herself forward and redeems her character traits, making them back into a strength of hers. Her overcoming such a genuinely serious and dark threat like Gideon is so impressive. She has the whole town turned against her, and then ancient magic on top of that, but she still succeeds through her weird way of thinking and caring nature. Really ran out of breath towards the end there. That sentence was like a full paragraph. This is the start of something I'm not a big fan of, and we'll talk about it way later. This is the start of the Wendy and Dipper romance. Big air quotes around romance. Wendy hasn't really come up yet. She's the cool girl for Dipper to pine after. Now, there is not a Wendy section in this video, because that's my biggest issue with her. I could not make one. She has two character traits, cool and girl. That is it. That is what she adds to any episode, and it's a real shame. She seems to be an outsider to her family. She doesn't connect with anyone at work. You could write a character around that very easily, but they just don't. And because Wendy might as well be a cardboard cutout that could fall flat at any time, so does the one-sided romance between her and Dipper. Dipper is 12 and she's 18, so the whole thing of Dipper being attracted to her while she tries to let him down easy, or just remains ignorant and treats him like a kid, it's easy to forget that it's in the show. It's so lifeless. Wendy leaves work one day to explore an abandoned convenience store with her friends. Dipper lies about being 13 to come with them. Mabel also comes along, probably wanting to spy on Dipper's crush. She's like that. Dipper attempts to prove himself to the teenage group, especially to the annoying, rude, generally unpleasant Robbie. Unfortunately, yet fittingly played by TJ Miller. I love so much that everyone loves Mabel, who's just like being nice and eating dirt and being herself, but no one really likes Dipper until he's the one to break them into the convenience store, only to find out that, yeah, it is actually fully haunted. This is also, other than the intro, our first instance of reversed speech. In a Mabel Sugarfield vision, a giant dog tells her to not trust her grunkle, but obviously reversed. The ghosts were old people killed by teenagers, so now they hate teenagers. Everyone else is taken out by the ghosts, except for Dipper and Wendy. To appease them, Dipper must prove he's not a teenager, while also appeasing them, and they absolutely demand that he must do a cute and silly dance. Dipper performs the cute and silly Lammy Lamb dance. After the ghosts release everyone, Dipper's afraid that all the work he did pretending to be anyone but himself to become popular would go to waste. But none of them saw, and Wendy fools them all in about how Dipper fought the ghost with his fists and they retreated out of fear. She swears to keep his secret. It's a fine episode. It's probably the funniest episode yet. I just wish it had a little bit more. It's a very standard just be yourself story, but oddly the Lammy Lamb dance isn't something that Dipper does regularly or anything like that. It's not a part of him. And then Wendy by the end just tells him to keep not being himself, because it'd be embarrassing if he was. But then even that reading doesn't work, because the Lammy Lamb dance isn't part of him. I don't know what this episode is going for, other than just some creepy visuals and some funny jokes. By any other show's standard, this would be a pretty good episode, but for Gravity Falls, it's just fine. The most standard, middling episode. I love Dipper's breakdown at the start. Getting humiliated in front of so many people could really break a kid, or full-grown adult. There's a subplot of Mabel trying to get Stan ready for a date with Lazy Susan that has some good jokes but doesn't really go anywhere or ever come up again. The focus of this episode is firmly on Dipper summoning a Manator, half man, half Tor, with beef jerky, and then them teaching him how to be a real man, supposedly. But Dipper doesn't go along with this idea of masculinity. He's not okay with hurting other people just to prove that you're better than them. So after the whole episode, he renounces the idea that he's a man and chooses to be himself, in the process standing up to the king of masculinity. When he returns to his family, Stan sees what's wrong and recognizes it. He says that he stood up to a bully and that's man enough to be proud of. Then Mabel rips out his chest hair. Just realized how that sounds out of context in the script. Stan and Dipper have a really tender moment, and then Mabel reaches across the table and rips out his chest hair. Had a really brilliant opening and a really brilliant ending. It promotes non-traditional, non-toxic masculinity. It's a totally fine episode. It has a great ending and a great opening. It has a subplot just for comedy, but sure, why not? At least it's entertaining while it spins its wheels in place. This is a middling Gravity Falls episode, but it's still a good episode that I've always enjoyed decently. Literalizing Dipper getting in his own way is so brilliant. In his way of what? Well, it's another Wendy relationship episode. Dipper discovers a copying machine that can copy living things. He creates a bunch of copies of himself to create the perfect date between him and Wendy at the party that Stan is throwing. I actually much prefer Mabel's subplot. I think it's the best part of the episode easily, so I'm just gonna get Dipper out of the way pretty quick. He's obsessed with over-planning, and his anxiety is getting to him, and he makes the discovery that even with all these clones and the perfect plan, just talking to Wendy like a normal person is much better, which was Mabel's suggestion earlier. All of his clones haven't gone through his character arc, so now it's a clone war, leading to all of the clones dying, and Dipper being forced to watch himself die. He just sits there, and his clone tells him to have a good life as he melts away. Rest in peace, Dipper 2. Anyway, the good part, Mabel is pumped to make some new friends at the party. First, she meets Candy and Grenda, two weird girls that don't have many friends. Zeus, who is the DJ at the party, creates a competition for him to bestow the party crown, which Pacifica Northwest interrupts. She absolutely demands that she deserves that crown automatically, making room in her speech to insult Candy and Grenda. This is all Mabel needs to challenge Pacifica to a party off. Pacifica is a seemingly pretty standard, vain, spoiled little girl, similar to Malfoy from Harry Potter or something, but by the end of the night, Zeus is forced to call Pacifica the winner, despite all of Mabel's hard work. Pacifica then literally steals the party, but without thinking, Mabel's new friends continue the party and make it a sleepover. I love that so much. It's so sweet and good at quickly building a friendship between Mabel and her new friends. She was ready to make a fool out of herself just to defend these strangers. She knew what she was doing, and so did they. They've never been able to stand up to Pacifica like Mabel could. One half of this episode is really great. Even the part where Dipper has to literally fight the bad parts of himself is decent. It's a shame how poorly motivated Dipper's half is. Of just being, well, maybe there's a chance with Wendy. Mabel with her sweater off is incredibly bizarre to look at. The episode takes place during a Gravity Falls celebration of old-timey pioneer things, and it's absolutely the best part of the episode. Pacifica is constantly celebrating the fact that she's rich and is related to the founder of the town, and everyone has her family to thank for it. The two definitely not gay, Disney-certified, not homosexual, there's room for everyone under the rainbow except for these two police officers are running around together exploring the fair, while also being super fun antagonists for the episode. And then there's Stan. He loathes Pioneer Day, and because of him not committing to the bit, he's put into the stocks. Gideon and Pacifica take turns abusing him. It's really funny. The actual plot of the episode has Pacifica insult Mabel for being too silly in front of the entire town, and Dipper reads that the founder of the town isn't actually the real founder. So they both set out to find proof that Pacifica's living a lie. The two policemen are forced to stop them by a mysterious secret agent guy that seemingly always monitors the town. And that's really the most of it. It's a great time. It's a light, fun story with the twins and the officers in the spotlight, with Stan's subplot pacing it out. Near the end, they meet the real founder, the 8th-and-a-half president of the United States. The president sends his police off on a vacation because he's technically still the president. Oh, and they didn't find proof of him. They found him perfectly preserved in peanut brittle. He has this thing of doing really silly stuff that turns out to be correct and really smart, like finding the key to immortality in peanut brittle, which is why Mabel was so helpful on this adventure. She's on the same wavelength as him, something that no mystery hunter or government official could replicate. I wish I had more to say, because I enjoy the episode so much, but it's just simple. Dipper gets an everything key, and Mabel becomes a senator of the United States. They also do actually prove that Pacifica's ancestor was a lie. None of those things ever come up again, outside of a few brief mentions. It's good. It's very good. This episode introduces the time-traveling Blynden Blandon from the year 2012. Basically, Mabel wins a pig and Dipper ruins a day out with Wendy. Dipper blames Blynden for his date going bad and hunts him down with Mabel and Waddles. Waddles is the pig, by the way, it's very important. They trick him into proving he's a time traveler in a great scene. They then steal his time machine, which is a really unique measuring tape with years instead of distance. I think it's really clever. Dipper and Mabel force themselves into a time loop right before Blynden arrives, so that Mabel can win her pig and Dipper can have the perfect day with Wendy. But it never quite works out. Wendy gets hurt or upset in some way or another by Dipper and leaves him alone in every single loop, until eventually, on a loop, Dipper forces Mabel to help him instead of winning Waddles, in the process having a good day with Wendy, but Mabel losing Waddles. Dipper stops the looping there and puts Mabel into a depressive spiral. And I think at this moment, Dipper begins to realize that no matter how many good days they have, Wendy and him will not date. Dipper goes through the loop one more time, humiliating himself and allowing Wendy to leave with Robbie, just for Mabel's new pet pig. And in a kind of mean-spirited but funny ending, Blynden Blandon snatches back his time machine and suspects that the twins were the paradoxes he was there to look for. And then the time police, Lolf and Dungren, blame him for it. He didn't do anything. He was pretty nice and was only trying to not have the universe die. Whatever. I like Waddles. What Dipper did was really nice. A lot of people say that this is Mabel being selfish, but it's so not. I don't know what people are talking about. Dipper chooses to do something very reasonable, and then Mabel is thankful for it. I don't know what people are talking about. I didn't mention it earlier, but we see Blynden Blandon be forced to go fix all the time travel stuff. And he goes to the past episodes. You can actually see him in the background of all those episodes. It is genuinely the coolest thing ever. This is a really tough episode that I flip back and forth on. I've waited until now to have the big discussion about Dipper, and it is early on in the analysis for one of the main characters, although I think Dipper is well characterized enough that there's enough to talk about. We're gonna do that after this episode. For now, let's just deal with this. Dipper gets jealous of Wendy and Robbie now officially dating. Dipper is making comments and getting under Robbie's skin because Robbie interrupted Wendy and Dipper playing a Street Fighter clone called Fight Fighters. Eventually, it all boils up to Robbie demanding to fight this 12-year-old boy. Stan places bets on the fights, and they say it'll go down tomorrow at midday. Zeus very matter-of-factly states the moral quandary of the episode. Dipper is almost guaranteed to lose, but he still has a choice to fight like a man or hide like a wimp. Dipper hides, and then brings Fight Fighter's character, Rumble McSkirmish, to life. He uses the Konami code, and it just kind of happens. Dipper tricks Rumble into scaring Robbie for him, but lots of R's in this episode, but Rumble wants to full-on murder Robbie. Dipper gets him to stop by admitting the truth and losing the fight, in Zeus's eyes proving that he's a man. Dipper then agrees with Mabel and Wendy's sentiments that fighting can only hurt people, so he surrenders to Robbie and they both agree to just hate each other in secret. I kind of don't get this at all. At first, I can appreciate that Dipper's moment is fighting for someone he doesn't like, even though he will 100% lose, and getting nothing for it, just because it's the right thing to do. It's probably one of the more heroic things we've seen in the whole show. But then, he refuses to fight Robbie straight after, because that's also the right thing to do, and I don't know about that. Robbie is not good to Wendy, and is still ready to beat up a kid unless he surrenders. I get the pacifist message, and I do really like that Dipper can be proven a man by losing, but when we keep the Manitor episode in mind, where Dipper basically went through the same moral journey and he rightfully spared the multi-bear, but what if the multi-bear was like Robbie and did enjoy inserting his power over people that couldn't fight back? What if the Manitors were right? I still enjoy this episode. Rumble looks and sounds amazing. This is what pixel art should look like in shows. It looked so phenomenal. I cannot imagine the work that went into Rumble. Dipper is really great here. This episode proves that he's a confused, new, but definitely growing hero in Gravity Falls. A little thing, it's weird that Stan just doesn't help at all. Like, he hates Robbie, and he likes Dipper, and Robbie's gonna kill Dipper. I don't know, I've always just thought it's really weird that Stan is just so into the fight. Zeus is really on point this whole episode. He has been sent to Gravity Falls for a summer, and the town perks his interest and his anxiety. To the audience, it seems as if Dipper is the first person since the journal's author to begin uncovering the mysteries of Gravity Falls. If it was up to him, he would read about everything before maybe going to see it, but the magic of the town is nothing if not dangerous. Creatures like the gnomes and the Gobblewonker, and even mysteries like the founding of the town and the copy machine are dangerous by themselves. Villains like Gideon are extremely efficient at harnessing it and hurting Dipper's family. Dipper is constantly forced into the active role of a hero by the mysterious town. He does not have time to read about things before experiencing them. He's good at learning and putting pieces together, but usually in quiet moments. Dipper usually has to rely on Mabel to improvise and get creative, but Dipper can use that as his strength. He has a cold wall that can help protect him and Mabel from villains like Gideon and Pacifica that she really struggles with. Although, that coldness can hurt his relationships at points, even if Mabel is pretty good at getting past it. Dipper is such a great protagonist because his strength can be turned into weakness and vice versa depending on the antagonist, which gives every adventure a unique feeling and keeps the stories unpredictable. The fact that he's also an outsider of the town but is given more information than anyone else allows him to have exposition and discoveries by himself, like learning and discovering about the undead in the first episode, but also allowing him to have things explained to him by other people. That role is usually filled by Zeus, Stan, or Wendy, which helps him build up a relationship with those characters. It gives a nice feeling of equal value, even if the protagonist is meeting a side character for the first time. They usually feel just as valuable as Dipper. Obviously, a mystery show should have a protagonist that wants to solve those mysteries, but Dipper takes that to a crazy extreme. He's an anxiety-ridden kid that is obsessed with mysteries even before he got there, and is just seeking the knowledge he doesn't have. Not so much the danger that comes with it, but it still often finds him. Dipper is so much fun to watch, putting together pieces and slowly following leads about everything. About who wrote the authors, why is the town so weird, and the backgrounds of all the characters. He's a mystery-solving, anxiety-having wimp with a bit of pressure, can fight for the people he loves, and stands up for what he believes in. It's obvious that he's a good person who's still growing into his role of a hero, and it's so enthralling to watch him grow emotionally and to progress through the narrative. Dipper is genuinely one of the best characters. We can only hope that he doesn't grow cold and obsessed with the knowledge he seeks. He'll need to keep Mabel so that he stays grounded and humble. I'm already very much in love with Dipper's character, but what I just described is his beginning, his Act 1, and now that we've established that, it's much more easy to talk about him in each episode. That shot of Mabel and Dipper really small is absolutely gorgeous. That is so amazing. Little Dipper takes on the topic of Dipper's ego and Mabel's self-worth, and how toxic they can both be when those traits are put into focus. Simply put, Mabel is sick and tired of always being second place to Dipper. So when Zeus points out that she's actually taller than him, she goes so hard into bullying him that he's mocked by the whole Mystery Shack crew. Dipper then uses the journal to find a gem that can grow him taller, to equal height. But when Mabel still doesn't let it go, he tries to grow himself taller and taller. This gets to the point where they physically fight, and the ever-evil, ever-charming little old Gideon gets a hold of the gem in the scuffle. From this point on, it's a pretty generic shrinking episode with some good jokes and really nice visuals. They defeat Gideon with mirrors and tickling fits. The writers pushed how petty the twins can be to the limit here. Mabel is so obsessed with beating Dipper that she gets all the people in his life to mock him, and Dipper wants so much to be back to him winning all of the time that he allows Gideon to capture them and put his family at risk. I can really appreciate how much like real children they are, like I said earlier. Mabel definitely not treating others the way she wants to be treated, and Dipper actively ruining his life just to prove that he can do it, never questioning whether or not he should. I wish we saw Dipper really rubbing Mabel's face in how much better he is than her at the start. That would help make Mabel, and especially Stan, more likable, giving him a dose of his own medicine instead of just being bullied. But either way, it's a very effective story. Great villain and really funny. Conceptually, I like the idea that Gravity Falls loves Halloween so much they celebrate it twice, but I do have a few issues with this episode. It is the Summerween episode. It shows us the twins, Grenda, Candy, and Zeus going trick-or-treating. But Dipper has to choose between his family and going to a party with Wendy. Dipper ultimately chooses his family after an excruciating episode before it's revealed that the party wasn't anything special, and Wendy hangs out with the crew anyway, giving Dipper everything he wanted. The whole episode is the main crew trying to get enough sweets to appease like this demon called the Summerwing Trickster. He full-on wants to eat the main characters alive, and even then, Dipper's still like, oh, maybe I should go to this party that Wendy will be at, instead of saving his own life, plus Mabel, Candy, Grenda, Zeus's, and Gordy's, the kid that already got eaten but you still definitely have time to save. Dipper has already come to terms with his relationship with Wendy a few times, and proven that he's willing to give it up for his own life, or a pig. This is so frustrating, because Dipper is just such a hero sometimes, and Wendy has already proven that she's willing to keep a secret for him and even forget that it even happened. So his fear of being seen in a costume trick-or-treating is just absurd. But really, this is the only episode that is actually bad and painful to watch. Man, I hate Summerween. The Trickster is awesome, I love his design, and I love his story, but seriously, it's just crazy that Dipper can't decide. I think that's just ridiculous. Mabel and Stan go head-to-head on running the Mystery Shack. Stan says being kind to people is a waste of time, and if you try to run a business, you'd get walked all over. Mabel obviously says the opposite. She convinces Stan to a bet, which of course he's really into. If she loses, she has to wear a loser shirt all summer. But if Stan loses, he gives up the Mystery Shack to Mabel and has to sing an apology song for her. So the bet and the story is a 3-day period in which Stan goes on holiday and Mabel runs the Mystery Shack. Whoever makes the most money with their own mentality wins. This episode is a decently fun time, watching Mabel realize why Stan is so hard on his naturally slacking, irresponsible, airheaded, and generally frustrated employees. I get it, Stan. God, it can be frustrating. And nearing the end, she's beginning to get close to the over-the-top manipulation and abuse that Stan does just to earn more money than he needs. But before she can go through with it, Stan returns and tells her his story. He went onto a game show, but the final question needed a polite answer, and he gave a rude answer. That is so much lazier than Mabel's story. He literally didn't even know how to say please, and therefore didn't earn money. If he's manipulative and smart enough to be so, then he should be smart enough to manipulate by being polite. I always hate that in shows. So, of course, Mabel wins by a single dollar. Her grand total actually just being $1. They all want Stan going back to being the boss. I enjoy the apology song, and this episode actually has my second favorite joke of the whole show. I really wish I had more to say, but I can't think about any character moments that really build on Mabel or Stan that we didn't know about. The twins having access to the whole Mystery Shack could have been used to build up some more mysteries as to the larger machinations of the town and Stan's part in it. Like, we don't even get to see Mabel in Stan's office accidentally finding something, or like, what's behind the painting and stuff. We don't see that here. Okay, so we're in a little bit of a slump. We've been lacking in character and mystery building for a few episodes, and this episode is no different. In this one, the whole crew, except Wendy, falls down a bottomless pit that Stan just has, apparently, and they all tell stories to pass the time. I enjoy how the stories characterize our characters, not in any new ways, but a bit of reinforcement is always good for a slow part in a show. Dipper's story is self-centered and all about himself, learning about how great he is. Mabel focuses on what's right in front of her and learning a lesson for herself. Zeus focuses on other people and is happy to make a fool out of himself to make those people he loves happy. Stan is surface level and changes to appeal to whoever's listening to him. If this is accidentally or purposefully keeping other people around him at arm's length is left a mystery. All of the stories are fine. Zeus is probably, If you just take it at face value, it's very frustrating that he's about to let the twins die for a video game high score, but you have to remember that it's just a story he's making up on the spot, so I'd say that Zeus is probably my favourite story, like it's just funny. It is strange that we're not totally sure what stories are canonical or not. Obviously, Stan's isn't and Mabel's is, but Zeus's and Dipper's characterization changes a lot on whether it's what's actually happening. Zeus's does not work at all if it actually happened. I think that's like character assassination if Zeus's actually happened, but Dipper's would be fine. Ready to change himself permanently just so people stop mocking him, I'd believe it. This episode is kind of confusing, and I think my interpretation of their characters is very generous. I think that these were just random stories. It's fine. You know, you gotta have an episode quota, you gotta fill them up, it's fine. The Deep End has by far the single funniest joke of the entire show. It's obviously the kids stuck in the pool jail for what seems like an entire year. So in this episode, Mabel gets a 1-episode obsession, and Dipper has to give up some venture with Wendy, and then 3 seconds before it ends, Wendy twits the thing so Dipper doesn't miss out on anything at all. We've seen it before, and we're gonna see it again. This time, Mabel has fallen in love with Mermando, a merman that's fallen into and gotten trapped in the Gravity Falls local pool. And Dipper is trying to be a lifeguard because Wendy is also a lifeguard for some reason, even though she already has a job. This episode offers literally nothing. I won't even talk about that plot because it's been done like 4 times already. However, what saves this episode, and actually makes me kind of enjoy it a lot, is the B-plot between Zeus, Stan, Gideon, and the head lifeguard and Mr. Pool Check. Stan and Gideon feuding over the best chair in the pool and getting more and more extreme is hilarious, until the seriously, mentally unstable, and dangerous Mr. Pool Check locks Stan up in pool jail. Zeus is convinced that the floaties of the pool are alive, and I don't think that's unreasonable for him to believe after all the stuff he's seen. So Zeus tries to save them all from Mr. Pool Check, and it's really funny. They only do 2 jokes with that idea, but one of them is in the middle of a big heist, one of the characters turns around, and Zeus is just there in the middle of the night with a bunch of floaties for no reason. Oh, that killed me as well. That's so funny. Yeah, this episode is really lacking and is only held up through its humor, but the instant Dipper and Mabel or one of their flat, boring love interests show up on the screen, I just fall asleep. Such a lacking episode. Carpet DM. In this episode, Zeus finds a secret room in the shack as Dipper and Mabel are fighting about not having enough space in their own room. Obviously, the story is about them both wanting the new room. Stan invents a suck-up competition to get free labor out of his grandkids. Sick. But in a twist, the room is actually covered in Experiment 78. A big blue shag rug that the twins find out that when charged with static electricity can actually switch the minds of the people standing on it. It's a body swap episode. It came out of nowhere, but it's very welcome. I love body swap stuff. They run around in opposite bodies trying to get Stan to give the key to their normal body, not the body that Dipper's mind wants to give the key to Dipper's body and then switch while he's still holding it. Very confusing. There are 2 scenes that add some really good character building moments for the kids. The lesser of the 2 is Dipper's, who is mistaken for Mabel and exposes how little he knows about women at all, and also how simply he views them. This does a lot to explain why Dipper still thinks there's a chance for him and Wendy, even with all their history already, but better than that is when Mabel is mistaken for Dipper by Stan, and takes the chance for them to have a one-on-one chat about puberty and growing up. Mabel is already way more emotionally intelligent than Dipper, and with this, she has the empathy to realize that Dipper might actually just need his own room. This comes up a full season later, when Mabel uses this knowledge to do some stuff. We'll get to that, don't want to spoil it. This is a chronological video after all, that's the whole point. I definitely already haven't ruined that. It's a really nice ending to the story. Mabel gaining even further... Oh, no, it's not the ending to the story. No, it's not. Mabel betrays him and locks herself in the room. Where did this come from? What? We just had a really good conclusion. In reality, it concludes after Dipper uses Mabel's girlfriends to break into the room, and then they get a bunch of other people in there because Zeus is a pig. and it's a big fight, and Dipper gets the room in the end, which was already the outcome from the good conclusion that they just ruined. And by the end, they feel like they want to be together in the same room because they love each other more than their own space. That ending is fine and necessary to keep the episodic structure, but we didn't need Mabel to be the antagonist again. I really wish she got to make the sacrifice and show off her good character traits for once. Because, again, the ending just feels like Dipper doing something to make Mabel happy. It kinda sucks. Alright, so this is a weird one. It's just kind of odd. Robbie has found a song that can hypnotize Wendy into loving him. That makes Dipper upset, obviously. But not because she's mind-controlled, because she's not dating him, but we can come back to that. And Stan tries to convince him that women just really love music. Dipper actually proves it is mind control, and then both of them go to prove it to Wendy. She then officially dumps Robbie. The actual ending is great, utilizing how Dipper was characterized in the previous episode. Dipper's cluelessness and coldness is on full display. Wendy, tears still streaming down her face, is asked out to a bowling date by Dipper. She rightfully says that she hates all of them and leaves, still crying. Not even the more intelligent and mature Stan gets involved here to tell Dipper he was wrong. And all that's really, really weird, right? Wendy snaps out of the supposed mind control just because she knew that it was mind control. Robbie is now into magic? Robbie's a magic villain? Stan doesn't offer any help, even though him teaming up with Dipper is so rare. But most of all, the strangest thing is this has nothing to do with what could arguably be called the A-plot. Mabel and her friends are going to a boy band concert in town. Wendy says that the boy bands are dumb. Dipper sucks up to her and says, yeah, they're probably all grown in tubes or something. Mabel and the girls can't get their tickets and have to sneak in, finding out that they are all actually grown in tubes. The girls break them out and take all the boys back to their shack. Mabel becomes more and more obsessed with them and begins to turn into a character similar to the boys' mean and abusive manager, as she only wants them to do what she wants, and then she lets them all go out into the wild. So, what's the connection there? Are they saying that Robbie and Mabel are the same, and then Dipper, Stan, and Mabel's friends are the voices of reason? The ones that say people should always be free to choose? But Dipper only says that so Wendy can choose him. We say in the Fight Fighters episode, Dipper is happy to let neglect and bad relationships to go on if he won't benefit from it. So shouldn't maybe Candy want the boys for herself, and that way the themes can mirror each other? And really point out how awful Dipper is? So maybe Candy should want the boys for herself, or Granda, it doesn't really matter. So that way that they can mirror Dipper, and the themes can, mirror each other. You can explain the Dipper plot through the Mabel plot, and the Mabel plot through the Dipper plot, obviously. You're telling two halves of the same story. Well, at least that's supposedly the benefit of having an A plot and a B plot. Oh, actually, I think definitely Candy should be Dipper. That way Granda's matter-of-fact style of speaking could allow for her to explain as to why Candy was in the wrong, and Mabel as well. Them both just wanting freedom, the freedom for them to be on top. The characters range from object non-characters to bad and selfish, out-of-character protagonists. This is a very, very strange episode that doesn't really fit here. I was happy to say Dipper was still a heroic figure in the Fight Fighters episode just because of how many external factors were affecting that story, but here, it reinforces that his character has been really selfish. Same here with Mabel. We kind of assume the reason she can be so antagonistic is because she's so used to asking a lot of her brother, and her wake-up call is being built up to, but here she's all in on cutting her friends out of her life and is demanding a lot of the boys. Again, just for a one-episode obsession. I really, really don't like this episode, and I feel like it hurts the character building a lot. It's crazy, because Dipper's still doing like a good thing, but he's just not doing it for the right reasons. It's just awful. Just awful. Oh my god, Land Before Swine. Oh. This episode slump is definitely the worst part of the show. Episodes 12, 14, 15, 17, and 18 just feel like they're from a different show. There's not a lot of mystery building, the characters' quality and depth are constantly fluctuating. The only thing that gets me through this part of the show is the comedy and the very nice artwork. That stuff never dips in quality, if you're wondering. If I never bring it up, just assume that the episode looks great and the humor is hilarious. If I'm being real, this video has immensely ballooned past what I wanted it to be, so all I'm going to say is that all that criticism applies to this episode. The characters are obscenely, disgustingly not acting like themselves. The story is boring and fueled by contrivances and out-of-character decisions. There are dinosaurs trapped underground in sap. That is all the setup that happens. The old man abducted is funny. No big surprise. I know I've been tough and rude to this show, but I really do feel strongly about everything Gravity Falls. It is so good at getting the characters and mystery into your head and heart that it will make you feel immensely powerful things, positive and negative. I can't wait to tell you how positive this episode gets. I have to talk about him. How could I not talk about him? The villain, the devil hiding in the forest, the eyes in the trees and the ears on the walls. I get to talk about Bill Cipher, a being from the second dimension. Although he can't physically enact his will, if he can make a deal with someone, he can utilize their body and powers to affect the world. He is a sadistic master of illusions. While he can't actually do anything that affects anyone, he can create illusions and dreams while people are awake and asleep that seemingly have no limit. He is a really scary, but equally fun to watch villain. He has every right to be what the series is most famous for, and most of the secondary material orbiting around him, again, totally justified. In this episode, Stan is really awful and abusive to Dipper, like pushing him to fight a bat with at least 2 other adults in the shack. It's just set up for a character thing later. Gideon is getting desperate, and using the journal he summons Bill Cipher to possess Stan's dream, allowing Gideon to access the shack's deed. This is where we learn that all that mystery reverse talk is actually Bill. Bill is the mystery of the show. Every intro, every end credits, everything that it goes unexplained is Bill. In a crazy move, Gideon wants the shack to destroy the Pines family's hearts, destroying their home, business, and heritage in one swift strike. Mabel and Zeus find out about this, grab Dipper, and rush back to the shack for Stan. Using Dipper's journal, they follow Bill into the dreamscape, into Stan's mind. In Stan's mind, we obviously have to deal with Bill, but also all of Stan's memories. Here, Dipper finally actually brings up how poorly he's treated, and sees Stan supposedly insulting him in a memory. Really over-the-line stuff to say about a kid. And in a move I genuinely couldn't believe, nearing the end of the episode, Dipper finishes that whole money where Stan says how awful Dipper is, and he hates Dipper so much, and he finishes the sentence with, "Yep, people said that all about me." Oh my god, are you kidding? He talks about how his dad pushed him and how he talks about what having kids was like. I want to tear into this so bad right now. It is such a cheap cop-out that I had assumed Gravity Falls was better than for the longest time. But I want to talk about Stan in full, and for that we really need some later context. So please, put a mental pin in that, a big pin, the biggest pin you've put in so far. We'll come back around to the relationship between Stan and Dipper later. Anyway, actually back into the episode. After Dipper has that little moment away from the group, we cut back to Zeus, Mabel, and her imaginary friends, Crash, and the other guy I didn't want to doodle for the script. We then get one more reason as to why Bill is the perfect villain for a story like Gravity Falls. Zeus loses his personality, goes silent, and begins using telekinesis as he morphs back into Bill. The journal's warning of not trusting anyone has never rang more true than this instant. The real Zeus quickly joins back into the group, as Bill sends them all into a type of arena. I guess so he can play with them before he kills them. That would suit him a lot, actually. Back to Dipper. This episode has really great pacing, by the way, just a little thing. From the second to the last, it does not stop at all. Having two well-connected stories that could easily stand on their own is so rare for any show. So Dipper falls into the memory he was watching before, and the Stan that just kind of opened up about himself demonstrates that they are literally in the dreamscape. If Dipper could seriously imagine something, he could make it into a reality in there. With that knowledge, Dipper is ready to protect his friends from Bill, and Stan says he's proud. Nice. It's a good moment. Dipper finds the group, sees them in danger, and leaps in to help them without thinking. Another great moment of Dipper losing his doubt and being the hero when his family's lives are on the line. It's actually crazy how much of a return to form this episode is. They all imagine things in their own weird ways. Bill tries to summon their nightmares and use his powers, but working together they can protect each other but not kill or even hurt Bill. But they can destroy the memory. They do that, and this alerts Gideon, who calls off his and Bill's deal, and we get a great sense of how angry Bill can get. He spares them, but warns them that he is not to be trifled with, and the only reason they're alive is because he can use them. Stan wakes up and pushes everyone out of his head to find Gideon's plan B. Gideon has the deed to the Mystery Shack. I cannot possibly put into words how much I love that Gideon is so arrogant he actually talks down to Bill, calling him a failure and revealing he never trusted him. I just love Gideon and Bill so much. They're some of the best villains. They can absolutely turn a pretty generic episode idea like this into the highlight of the entire show, which is already a highlight in animation in general. So that's it, isn't it? Gideon won, and it feels bad, really bad. We see these kids, an old man, and Zeus thrown out of their home. In a way, it's Zeus's emotional home. Everyone has had to retreat to Zeus's literal home with his grandma, who I love. I think the show does something really smart here. Up to now, it's basically been totally ignored, the fact that this is just for a summer vacation, except for the very first episode. It's all been this fun, never-ending journey, but now that it's been interrupted and the twins' parents are calling Stan, reality is knocking on the door, asking him if it's safe, if he can keep looking after the kids. Eventually, he agrees that he can't. The games and fun adventure are seriously over now. That is a genius thing to do, and it makes this feel so real, even with all the jokes and weirdness present during the opening of the episode. So the timer has begun, counting down. Mabel and Dipper's bus leave tomorrow afternoon. Zeus gets another job, and the twins begin to seek out someone to help them defeat Gideon quickly. They land on the gnomes, and they agree to manipulate them by saying that Gideon is a beautiful princess who wants to date the gnomes. Gideon beats the gnomes by using a pig whistle that he's been using to abuse Waddles. Apparently gnomes have as good hearing as pigs, who also apparently have really good hearing. That's really sad. He's just literally been abusing animals in his free time, like the same way I would watch a TV show he's been abusing Waddles. Gideon is outraged that he was called a princess by the gnomes, and using the whistle to hurt the gnomes forces them to attack the twins. And in a super low point, without the Mystery Shack or the Gruntle and surrounded by evil gnomes, Gideon takes Dipper's journal, insulting Dipper all the while. Gideon then finds out In response, Gideon activates the statue that Old Man McGucket made, and it's actually a giant robot, the McGucket Special. Stan has set the twins home, and it's sad. It's really sad. It's a tear-jerking scene. For the first time, all three of them have actually given up. And Dipper really believed Gideon when he said that Dipper was nothing without the journal. Gideon chases down the bus, and thank goodness Zeus needed a second job, namely bus driver. I needed some levity. I'm so glad Zeus is here. This episode's been way stressful. The escalation of the twins running away to Gideon King conning Mabel and Dipper realizing that it was himself, his heart, and his ability to put together information, not the information itself that made him who he is perfectly pulled off. It gets worse and worse. Dipper has his sister taken from him now, his one last source of courage and love before one big final moment of Dipper launching himself at the robot. Gideon and Dipper drop all pretenses of magic or weirdness or anything else that interrupts them. They get into a physical fistfight, causing the giant robot to fall and explode, drawing in the entire town to investigate. This is the one big issue of the episode that comes up. Stan's hearing aid has been acting up. Stan realizes, for no reason or logic at all, that it's because of Gideon's badges that he's distributed around the town that are actually cameras and microphones, which is how he pulls off his, psychic charade. This seriously comes out of nowhere, And Stan is just sitting there, and then he's just like, oh, wait a second, I know what's happening, and then he figures out the entire scheme. It's very unsatisfying to not have Dipper put it together and find the evidence, solving a mystery totally without the journal, or let Mabel do literally anything this episode. Just makes me question, why is Stan the big hero at the end, returning everything stolen back to the Pines family? Shacks, journals, family, and confidence all back where it should be. It is genuinely so stunning how well Gravity Falls can execute a story with multiple hills and valleys in one 20-minute episode. Stories and characters this well crafted is what keeps people watching the show even when it's not perfect. Even with multiple episodes in a row that are lacking, the good is so good and so compelling that it keeps everyone invested. Nearing the end of the episode, Dipper reveals the journal to Stan. He writes it off so hard, totally dismisses it and brushes it off. He doesn't believe it. But Stan takes the journal with him, and it's easy to wonder why, and where the second journal went. We don't need to wait long to ponder, though. It's Zeus. Everyone's having fun. Oh, so much fun. Then it's spooky music. It's like piano. Bum, 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 bum. Beep, boop, beep, beep, boop. Bshoot. Bshoot. Bchonk. Clonk, 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 clonk. Footsteps. Clonk, clonk, clonk. The music's a little bit more hopeful. Bleep, bloop, bleep, bleep, bloop. Bop, bop. Chunk, chunk. Bleep, bloop, 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 bloop. Beedly, diddly, diddly. Step, 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 step. He's still stepping. Step, 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 step. Music's getting a little bit more tense. Dun 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 dun. These years. Finally, I have them all. Beep bloop bleep bloop. Bleep bloop. Bleep bloop. It's working. Ha 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 ha. Cha-chunk. Patunk. Here we go. If that isn't an amazing hook for Season 2, I don't know what is. Stan knows. He always has, and might end up being the single most knowledgeable character we've met so far. Season 2 is absolutely going to be the best thing ever. Gideon is the perfect antithesis to Dipper. He is small and wants to be big, just like Dipper. But unlike Dipper, Gideon is ready to use other people as stilts and is genuinely nothing without his journal. Although Season 1 Gideon only ever has power over other people through the journal, other people's magic, and literally just other people, there is a great amount of viciousness and intelligence that goes into his plans, but they all fail the same way. When it comes down to him, Gideon loses. He panics and can't fight every single time. Gideon, I would say, isn't so much Dipper's antagonist, but the twins together. Mabel's villains are usually more conceptual, like greed, time, and ego. Gideon is probably the best villain of the entire show because of how masterfully he mirrors both the twins at once. He has the emotional intelligence and determination of Mabel, while also having the insider knowledge and calculating mind of Dipper. Gideon mixes that with both of their selfishness, ego, coldness, and immaturity to create a perfect enemy with all of their positives and flaws, while at the same time representing the bad ending for either of the twins. Either one could grow to rely on their skills to hurt other people and become the villain, just like Gideon. He especially brings out this in Dipper, talking to him like he was talking to himself. When Gideon says that Dipper is nothing without the journal, that he's weak and pathetic, Gideon is obviously talking about himself. Again, pushing others down to hoist himself up. Gideon works very well to set up mysteries, he has another journal, and is so much more knowledgeable about the town than Dipper. This gives Gideon heaps of opportunities to literally tease the twins with mysteries and give his theories about the author, that he says like absolute truths, because he's just that arrogant. Also, due to his trait of using other people, Gideon is a great team-up villain, to manipulate other antagonists to attack the Pines family, like McDuckett, the Gnomes, and even going up the chain to a trans-dimensional god, Gideon is my personal favourite antagonist from Gravity Falls. His story isn't over yet, but even if he was the bad guy for only the first season, I would still be saying that. He works to be a villain that interacts with the physical narrative, character development, and even the ongoing and quickly unraveling mystery of Gravity Falls. He is a flawless antagonist. So far.